Canchock, Book 3 of the young adult series Future Kings, written by Seth Gill, read by Seth Gill. All rights reserved, Seth Gill. Chapter 1 Natural Wonders. Still nothing. Simon crept in by the low fire that Gordon was carefully tending. I found rabbit tracks. The traps are set, so we might get some fresh kills for when we head out tomorrow. Angelina's head shot up from her work skinning the last rabbit he'd snared. It was disgusting work, and she still wasn't doing it right, but she was taking her turns like everyone else. And hunger had a way of stealing even the most squeamish person's nerves. "We've everything we need here," she insisted. "We can wait it out." Simon's snicker was sarcastic with a hint of anxiety. The coats were all dirty from the recent rains and muddy runs. The boots showed new stains and random nicks. Hair and clothes were in bad need of a wash yet again. The local stream they'd found was too small, and they couldn't afford to be out in the open for too long to bathe. Angelina almost wanted to risk being spotted just to get properly clean. She missed clean. "We can't keep using that stream you found, Angelina," Simon grunted. "And this is the last of our wood. We can't make wood rejuvenate itself like he could. That firewood's somewhere else." Angelina could roll with the punches, "so we'll go find some." 3 days, Simon grumbled. The 17-year-old stared out into the morning haze. "They've been around too. I found their tracks the one time. If he's leading them off so they aren't on us, I'd say he's missed a few." He stared back at Angelina in the hollow beneath the overgrown tree. The same hollow they'd moved into after that first morning's escape from the maze trap. "They'll be back again," Simon groaned. "Only they'll widen their search. They're smart. We've lasted 3 days here, but we can't wait any longer. We're not leaving him." "He left us." Simon ended his shout with a bitter hiss and quickly held breath. His face almost changed color. "Don't forget what he told us," he added a moment later, not hiding a layer of contempt. "What he told you, at least. We're supposed to leave him and go on our own." "And he'd still be there even if he wasn't," Gordon interjected. Simon tried to stare Gordon down, but Gordon just shrugged and looked to Angelina for support. "He said that," Angelina confirmed, swallowing uneasily. "Yeah, he just didn't explain what he meant." "Of course he didn't," Simon barked. He stabbed at the low fire with a nearby stick. "I knew he'd leave us at one point anyway. They always do." His volume faded and his shoulders slumped. He was starting to make me think he was different. A guilty glance from Gordon to Angelina. Simon sat up with a more guarded expression. "Look, even if his intentions are honorable, he isn't here. And we can't stay any longer. If he's going to show up sometime, he can find us." Simon got no nod from Angelina. Gordon pursed his lips and inhaled deep. "We can leave him a sign," the 10-year-old suggested. Simon smiled smartly. "Yeah, we can do that." He glanced apologetically to Angelina. "We can't stay. You know that." "I know," Angelina grumbled. She hated what Simon was saying, but they couldn't stay. She just didn't want to leave. What if it was her out there? Would they leave her behind too? "I know we can't say," she conceded sourly, "but I don't have to like it." Simon's guilty frown returned. "None of us exactly like this." "What signal?" Angelina demanded. "What kind of signal will they not recognize if they stumble upon this place first?" Gordon was smiling. "Leave that to me." Angelina wanted to know what Gordon had in mind, but she was too angry with Simon for being so eager to leave. She was angry with the Algernese for pushing them on. She was angry with Starvin for putting them in this situation too. She knew they had to leave. That wasn't the point. There was just so much else, so she let Gordon take over making his covert symbol while Simon planned how they'd remove all other evidence they'd been there. She skinned that animal as best she could. It helped her work on her building emotions. Before the sun had reached noon above, Simon returned, letting them know the way was clear, and they did a final inspection. All seemed neutral enough. Gordon's version of the constellation Aesculapius would work. He explained again how it was supposed to be the Cassiopeia sitting down, hence the L-shaped stick design with that pointed back. In his version of the constellation, he added the head he still thought it deserved. The head was looking in the direction they were headed. Gordon almost burned the symbol into the ground to make sure it stayed, but that would prove it mattered. If the wrong people or things found it, they could then find them in short order. Angelina figured it would work fine, but she still gazed out towards the maze and central bowl forlorn. Where was he? How could he be with them, but not? She didn't want them on their own. She didn't want him to be left on his own either. Angelina took the lead with Gordon at the back. Simon walked in the middle, working his cloaking spell as the main magicer. Angelina and Gordon were speaking the same spell, of course, but they were also distracted with where they were headed and what might be following. So Simon took point at keeping them hidden while out in the open. We need a good water source soon, Gordon mumbled forward. To drink, Angelina agreed. For clothes, Gordon reminded her. My clothes are getting pretty tight. I think they'll stand up on their own at this point. Angelina grinned. They smell like it. Quiet, you two, Simon hissed. I don't know how he did it all that long with us talking around him. Just doing that spell in the maze with us all moving was hard enough. Holding this cloak on the move now is just too much with you two going on. Not to mention the fact that they'll hear you. Angelina almost spoke again just to see what Simon would do. It wasn't like he could break his focus and hit her or anything. Starburn had held the focus on the cloaking and muting spells since they left town and headed north. He'd been keeping ward signs active as they went as well. She was gaining much more respect for the magic he possessed the more she practiced her own, even if she was still convinced the old wizard was crazy and inconsiderate. Around lunch, they stopped to set a low fire in a slightly lower dip in the rocky terrain. Simon was learning how to control the iron rod Starburn had crafted for him better with each meal, from the simple spark to more lasting flame. The remaining rabbit food they hadn't eaten at breakfast was worked into a stew. Gordon was almost inhaling his lunch. Angelina was hungry, but not that hungry. Simon spat out his last spoonful of stew. He picked at his lips and stared at the bit of fur at his fingertips. I thought you skinned this. So you do better, Angelina groaned. Wait, you left bones in the one you prepared. Simon glared across. That was once. Twice, Gordon noted mid-slurp. Simon glared at him, too. So Gordon returned to his meal. Sorry, the 10-year-old mumbled with a grin and blush. Simon nodded ruefully, more carefully eating on. Angelina covertly discarded her own bit of fur. She'd never said she'd been good at skinning animals. She figured most 14-year-olds weren't, and she felt no shame being proven poor at doing so. Still, she had some pride. No need to apologize just yet. She pursed her lips and glanced around. I want to try something. Angelina knelt beside the fire and focused her thoughts. She stretched out her mind, projecting her thoughts into the stone beneath them. She found crumbling tunnels and scurrying feet, then endless depths of granite and clay. Angelina pulled back, blinking vigorously. Starburn had warned her about keeping her wandering mind under control. She needed to control her search, not let her projection get the best of her. What are you trying to do? Simon asked with a frown. I'm trying to scan the way ahead like he always did, Angelina explained. She took some readying breaths. It might save us time if there's something to go towards that's better than just rock. She tried again. This time, she focused on the topsoil, extending her mind forward. It was drawn too far north, such that all she got was blurred senses. She broke from her projection again, shaking her head. I'm not strong enough, she grumbled. She felt some fatigue drift in. She realized that it wasn't the magic that tired her. It was controlling and focusing it. I did sense something wet, north by northwest. It could be water. I couldn't get distance. It was all too fast. Could be either water or blood, Simon suggested. She met his sour expression with a sneer. We can head that way, Simon grumbled. Just be ready to run when the time comes. Before they broke camp and started off again, Angelina did a stock of what supplies they had left. They had the 2 rabbits they'd picked up that morning with their 3 traps. A bit of stew remained, but not much more than a mouthful. Her canteen was pretty empty. How long can we go without food? Gordon frowned back. I don't know, but we're okay as long as we have water. At least, I think it works that way. Angelina frowned, too. She liked food. With their quick camp covered over as best as could be done, they were off again over the rather bleak terrain. Angelina wouldn't mind some trees, not just clumps of gray-green grass and the odd weed. She'd actually love to find a house or a tent along the horizon. A break from the wind and a warm, dry place to sleep would be a pleasant break from the hard and damp of the Canadian Shield. She glanced back and nodded. How's it going? Gordon lifted his head and smiled. I think I've got them all memorized now. He angled his arm a different direction and wiped the black stone over his forearm again, gazing at the new constellations that appeared. I've got it down to where each one is, too. Quiet, Simon snapped. Concentrating here? Angelina faced straight ahead again. Sorry. She hid her smirk as best she could. She did allot Simon his silence, but it was still tempting to see what he'd do if they spoke on. The view didn't change much. The rock took on waves. It was almost like they were walking on an ocean of stone with the rounded hills and following dips. So much cracked granite. and the wind picked up at one point, making them all turn away to keep breathing. When the wind had died down again, they walked on, all grumbling about Arctic winds so far south. Near on night, they found a gash ahead. It was a bit to the left. There was an overhang near to the back with an oval clearing up front. Simon searched out one side while Angelina scouted out the other. Gordon remained in the back, making sure they still weren't being followed. When he'd heard two matching bird whistles, he joined them in camp, and they started to explore more closely. "There's a river down here," Angelina cheered. "It's down a small lip, and it drains into the wall. But we've got enough water." "A bath?" Gordon asked skeptically. "Only after we use it for meals tonight and tomorrow," Simon warned. "And even then, we shouldn't do more than dunk our heads. In this cold with no solid fire," he added, motioning to a dwindling amount of firewood, "we'd catch pneumonia doing anything more." Angelina shrugged and Gordon sighed. "I spotted some roots and mushrooms. We don't need much fire for them." "And the leftover rabbits," Angelina insisted. Simon frowned, then shrugged. "And them. But I didn't see any game. We should be careful using them up." While Simon and Gordon set up camp, Angelina dug around for her iron rod and knelt in front of the camp. She focused her mind on exactly how much flame she wanted and summoned a burst. It went too large and swept across the stone. She jerked her hand and body back, blushing guiltily. "Oops. What are you doing now?" Simon groaned. "Nothing," she countered testily. "I'm making wards," she offered a second later in a huff. "I just need to get more practice at this thing." She knelt again and summoned a smaller burst. It came out like a candle. How did Simon control his so easily? Grimacing, Angelina saw the size of flame she wanted in her mind, and tried again. To her surprise, it worked. She kept a steady welding-style flame going and created her best stick-figure bird. It had the slanted head and wing lifting up on an angle. "Torlos," she breathed, satisfied with her work. "You're for reinforcing physical and healing." Her smile waned ever so slightly. "I think. Gordon, which way was Torlos again?" Gordon checked his arm and pointed. "Thanks." She thought about the constellation drawing its energy to the ward. There was a bit of a shift, but there wasn't any haze, and the ward didn't glow. Starvin hadn't explained how he made the wards work. "Shit. Keep your focus around you and what exactly you're doing," she mumbled, sitting cross-legged and bowing her head. "How hard can this be?" She imagined the ward glowing and a similar glow encompassing the camp. She could feel and see Torlos in the sky above, and feel a linking sensation around her, and she opened her eyes. The ward was a light orange. She smiled, touching it. It was cold, and it stopped glowing. "Oops. Lost my focus," she grumbled. "I can hold a cloak with the same focus, but not a ward? How much focus does a ward take exactly? And how is she supposed to walk around and do other things and keep one active?" Maybe this was why Starvin hadn't told her anything too detailed about wards. She cleared her throat and mind. She was not going to give up. By the time supper was ready, she called it quits for now. She needed to figure out what the ward needed. There had to be a trick to keeping it active and do other things. After 70 years of magic, wizards had to have come up with an easier way to work a ward. She just had to figure out how without any help. "So who always moves?" she asked between bites. The mushroom tasted awful, and the rabbit meat was starting to smell. At least the root stew portion tasted good. She had to pause at that thought, then shake her head. Root stew tasting good. It had been a long day. Simon finally realized she was talking to him and raised his head. "What do you mean?" Angelina poked at the fire and dying embers. "You said they always move on," she reminded him. "Back before we left the maze there? We found you alone in that house in town there. Who'd moved on?" Simon's eyes went wide, then quite narrow. He scooped up a large spoonful of stew. "None of your business. The girl in the white hat in the crowd Starvin was talking about," she wagered. "I'd bet it was her." "Leave it alone," Simon nearly growled. "You don't want to go there." Angelina rolled her eyes and shook her head. "I'm trying to get to know you, Simon. We know Gordon here. I'm not all that secretive. You don't want to know me." Angelina smiled. "Maybe I don't have a choice." He stared across, warning any further questions away. Angelina conceded a give, tapping her left foot a moment. So what were they supposed to talk about then? She was tired of lessons and star talk. She considered trying a fire spell, but the iron rod incident was fresh in her mind, so she decided not to. After meal, Simon retreated to his own space, and Angelina tried to get her ward working. Gordon burned the stick-figure pickaxe to try his own ward. "Oriagas," he explained, to cloak the camp. Angelina smiled and nodded, and they tried their own for a time, with a full dark of night above and a half moon shining down. After some sour grumbling from Gordon's side of camp, He joined her, and they tried a shared attempt to charge a ward with life. Then hold it. It has something to do with thinking about it, I think, Gordon mumbled with a quick yawn. I can feel it going, and then I get distracted, and it's gone. I can't see it anymore. Does that make sense? Yeah, Angelin agreed. Same here. It takes less distraction to lose it, too. Why does it take more work for a ward, do you think? Gordon just shrugged. They tried a few more times before crawling back into bedrolls. As Simon was still up, they volunteered him for first watch.